My name is Gayatina, and in this video I'm going to give my October wrap. I thought I would do something different this month, so I'm going to try to film in different locations with my bookshelves on the background. I have borrowed a light from my partner who recently wanted some light, so let's see how this goes. Any feedback, leave it down below. So yeah, instead of reading graphic novels and memoir, I this month decided to read illustrated children's books instead. So yeah. The next book I read is Mees Kees en pittig klasje by Mirjam Oldenhave, with illustrations by Rick de Haas. This is book 1 in the Mees Kees series. Here are most of the other ones I have of the Mees Kees series, though there is one, I think, in this TBR soon pile that I created and then didn't get to, so I have to clean that up. And here are some of the other books I have by this author. Now, I hadn't read a book in this series before, but I found it enjoyable. What's the main character's name? So here are all the children. This is Tobias, and he is the main character, and the story is told through his perspective. And this is Mees Kees, so the class gets a new teacher, Mees Kees, and here are the other kids. And Mees Kees, this is on primary school, by the way. Mees Kees does things a bit differently than like most teachers, and so I thought it was pretty funny. I wasn't expecting that, and yeah, I liked it. A noodkreet uit Transmuzanië by Geronimo Stilton. Here and down here, which I realize now you can't actually see, are my Stilton books. Well, most of them, but you can't really. You can see it here, but not really down there. The lighting is not great. This is book 2 in the sort of main Geronimo Stilton series. I don't know what this is called in English. I presume it's been translated into English because a lot of the Stiltons have, not all of them maybe, but you know, this is one of the older ones. So here, you can't really see, is the Italian title, which is, and I don't speak Italian, so apologies to any Italians who are watching this and say that I'm butchering this, because I don't really speak Italian. So, Una Granita di Moshe per il Conte. That's the original title, because this is originally Italian. And in this book, Geronimo's cousin phones him and wants his help, basically because he is in an area called Transmuzanië and it sounds like he's in trouble, sort of thing. And yeah, so this had nice illustrations. It was a nice Stilton read. I personally prefer the bigger books over like the smaller ones, in terms of enjoyment for me personally. But obviously the longer ones are, you know, also more expensive and take longer to read. So, but yeah, this was nice. Hi. So the next book is Stick Dog Wants a Hot Dog by Tom Watson. This is book 2 in the Stick Dog series. I have previously read book 1, which is Stick Dog. And this was this is about Stick Dog and his friends. He's got a couple of friends, also dogs. And in this book they all they're hungry, and so they come up with plans to try and get food. It's actually quite similar in premise kind of as book 1. I mean, a bit different, but you know, for adults I wouldn't recommend like reading them back to back, because then it gets probably a bit repetitive. But you know, I want one every once in a while. I find it fun. There's some funny bits in it, and yeah, I enjoyed it. And the next book is I Am Still Not a Loser, book 2 in the Berry Loser series. This is by Jim Smith. Here are the other ones I have, although number 3 is missing because it's currently on kind of like a TBR kind of pile, and that is actually the same for some of my books, so I didn't think about that. So if you're wondering if there's anything missing like in between a series, it might be in that pile, but I haven't sorted that out yet. So anyway, so this was book 2. I've read book 1 twice and I've read book 3 once, because I actually first bought books 1 and 3 in Dutch and then the rest of them in English. So this is book 2. I wasn't able to find that in Dutch, but this is about Berry Loser, and It also fun adventures. Yeah, I'm sorry. And I enjoyed reading this. It was slightly a different reading experience for me because this is in English, whereas before I read, so all the names and such are in Dutch, so they're slightly different in some cases, but you know, I can work with that. So yeah, I like this. I am too short. So the next book I read is Big Nate Strikes Again by Lincoln Peirce. So here are the other Nate books that I have. I don't know if you can really see that. This was also a reread. This is book 2. And I've read books 1 and 2, and I think a few other ones from the library before I decided to buy my own copies. So now I'm rereading the ones I've read and also reading my own ones. This is about Nate and fun adventures in school. I liked this, didn't love it, but liked it. So yeah. The next book I read in October is, sorry, I am too short for this angle. Wilf, the Mighty Worrier by Georgia Pritchett. This was also a reread. Here are the other Wilf books that I have. And I have read 2 of them before from the library and then decided to buy my own copies. And it was really fun to reread this book. This book is about Wilf, who is a worrier, as it says, so he worries a lot. So this has also some tips on like anxiety, and he has a new neighbor who's just moved in, and this neighbor called Alan might be evil, and it's up to Will to save the world, basically. So yeah, I thought this was funny. It also has nice illustrations, and yeah, I liked it. So again, this is not the best angle, but I wanted to talk about the 26 story Treehouse, and here are the other ones that I have. This was a reread for me. Oh, these books are by Andy Griffiths and Terry Denton, and they live in this magical treehouse, and I really enjoyed rereading this. This hurts my knees, but I think we're gonna go with it. So, fun fact, actually, this book is book 2 in the series, because this is book 1, the 13 story treehouse, and I actually read book 2 first. I borrowed it from the library, and I didn't know much about it at the time. I loved it, so then I read the first few and then decided to buy my own copies. So I reread this one. I reread the first one, I think earlier this year. Anyway, so I reread the second one now and I loved it again. But it does make some things clear reading them in order. So yeah, this is not the best angle, but I did my best. Also, the Treehouse books also have lots of illustrations. They're illustrated by Terry Denton. Sorry, I forgot to mention that. I hope this angle works. Not really, but the thing is, I'm going to talk about this book. The first book I read in October is Inspector Specter by A.J. Copperman, which is the 6th, I think, book in the Haunted Guesthouse Mystery Series. And here are the other ones. And also the other books I have by the author, so that's why I thought I'd try this angle. I'm still working out a bit, so yeah. So I read this book together with my friend Sarah, and we both really liked it. No one is surprised. This is a cozy mystery, but there's also ghosts. And this series is about Alison, who lives in this guest house that she bought, and she runs it as a guest house, so people stay there the night, but she doesn't cook for them, so it's not a bad breakfast. So in this book, I guess I can tell you that let's say the local police detective lieutenant comes to Alison's house and asks for her help, and if you've read any of the series, you know that this is pretty unique. But yeah, that's as far as I'm going to go with that. This was again a really enjoyable mystery, and I thought this one was actually quite good. Definitely one of the better ones in my opinion. I really liked it. The next book I read is Zondagskind by Judith Visser. This was a reread for me. I read this book when it came out, which was in 2018. I loved it. It was my favorite book that I read in 2018, I believe. And one of my favorite books of all time. This is a novel, but it's very much based on Judith Visser's own life and her own childhood growing up. She is autistic, and but she didn't know that when she was a child and a teenager. So this is her book about growing up with that, and I reread this because the sequel came out this month, and so I wanted to reread the first book before I read the sequel. And yeah, I absolutely love this. I didn't want to rush through it too quickly. So yeah, I love this. Still one of my favorite books of all time. So the next book I finished wasn't actually the sequel to Zondagskind, but since we are in this area, I thought I would discuss it now so that I don't have to keep going back and forth and readjusting the tripod, which, yeah. But anyway, so the sequel is called Zondagsleven by Judith Visser. Like I said, it came out in October, and I have been waiting for this book ever since I had learned that it was coming out. So Zondagskind, here, and here are some of the oldest other books. Zondagskind is ends when, I think, when she is in her late teens or early 20s. I can't remember exactly. Well, I mean, there's an epilogue, so it's a bit, yeah. Anyway, so Zondagsleven kind of continues that story and sees the main character, who is called Jasmijn, having an office job and how she deals with that. Now, this book is not quite as autobiographical as the previous one, because Judith herself didn't know about her autism until quite a while into her life, whereas Jasmijn, in the beginning of this book, does know. So, and of course the reader knows. But yeah, I love this. I mean, I was hoping to love it, and I did. I cried rereading Zondagskind. I cried rereading Zondagsleven. I also laughed. And it doesn't happen that often that a book really hits me quite like that, if that makes sense. But there was a lot for me to relate to in this book, since I am autistic. I totally recognize Jasmijn's difficulties with sounds and, you know, like the bright lights, and her love for dogs as well was just beautiful to read about, and I love this. Yeah, so this is now one of my favorite books that I read in 2020. And well, this was a reread, Zondagskind, so, you know, I don't know if I count rereads or not, but either way, this, I'm probably gonna say this is the best book that I read in 2020, at least the one I can relate to the most, maybe. But anyway, at least in the top 10. Although I don't know if I'll make a top 10, more like a top 20, because I know myself. But yeah, this was excellent. I pre-ordered this book and I subscribed to the Oldest newsletter, and she told me that if I ordered this, if I ordered it from a specific book shop, then you can get it signed. So I did that because, well, I don't have that many signed books, so, and it, you know, it didn't cost me anything extra. So I just, oh, you can't really, yeah, you can see that. Signed and personalized, which, so that's, yeah, I'm very happy with that. Like, I wouldn't, personally, I wouldn't want to pay like lots of extra money for a signed copy versus like a normal copy. But that's just me. So yeah, this was really, yeah. Well, again, this is not the best angle, but I wanted to talk about Our Wayward Fate by Gloria Chow. I actually read this book in between reading Zondagskind and Zondagsleven, or rather I read it to the side of it, because I wanted to savor Zondagsleven, so I didn't want to like read it all too quickly. So I read bits of this as well. Between. So Gloria Chow's debut book is American Panda, and I really liked that one. It's young adult contemporary. And now I read Our Wayward Fate by Gloria Chow, which is her second book. And she has a third book coming out. I'm not sure when, but I'm excited for it. Could be next year. This was, again, really, I really liked it. Do you mind if my face is not in the video? I don't know if people mind that, but... So this book is about 17-year-old Ali Chu, and she is the only Taiwanese kid in her high school who is, and otherwise the high school is very white. And then one day, so she kind of pretends to sort of be more white to fit in, and then one day there's a new kid in school called Chase Yu, and he is also Taiwanese. And so this is about family and culture and discrimination and racism, and yeah, I thought this was really good. I don't want to spoil too much. I really liked it. I read Yes Baby by Marie-Lotte Haag and Nydia van Voorthuizen. This book came out recently. I don't recall the exact date, but I have read before Damn Honey and Heb je nou al een vriend? And I really liked these, and I also really liked Yes Baby. So Yes Baby is written for teenagers. This is kind of book 1. They plan to do 2 others, and in this book they talk about things about your body, having your period and sex. And yeah, so this these 2 women are feminists. They have their own podcast called Damn Honey. I have listened to a few episodes, and yeah, I really like these. Heb je al een vriend is my favorite, but it's also a lot bigger. So yeah, enjoyable. And you know, I know I'm not the target market for Yes Baby, and maybe also not quite for Damn Honey in the sense that I'm not a teenager anymore. But yeah, this contained a lot of good, important messages and information, and yeah. Hi, so I then read Artemis Fowl and Het Atlantis Complex, or in English Artemis Fowl and the Atlantis Complex, by Owen Colfer. And this was a buddy read with Olivia from Olivia's Catastrophe. And in this book, Artemis has a mental illness that is based on fantasy elements and magic, but it has some similarities to some conditions that we have in the real world. Now, the other ones are up here, which you can't really see, but otherwise you can't see me, so we're going with it. And then the last book, book 8, because this is book 7 in the series, that's not here because I'm gonna read that this month, so I mean in November. So this series is about a criminal genius, Artemis Fowl, and elves, and yeah, it's just magical. And well, if you've been following me longer than, I don't know, a month, then you'll know I've been reading this series this year with Olivia Catastrophe. So in many of my videos and also many of her videos, we give the synopsis for the series. Anyway, this was a nice read, but so far book 6, that's the one with the time paradox, is still my favorite. I love that one. This was quite good, but the mental health, mental illness representation is not like the best, or so I've heard. Olivia said that. So yeah, I look forward to read book 8 and see how it all wraps up. Then I read Zwijgrecht by Loes dan Hollander. This shelf is lots of books I own by this author. Loes dan Hollander, she mostly writes literary thrillers. And at this point in my reading experience, I just wanted to read something that I would call like a comfort read. Something familiar in the sense that you know the author's writing style, and well, this was that for me. That might seem weird, I don't know, to read a thriller being a comfort read, but I don't read that many thrillers actually, but I do really like Loes dan Hollander's thrillers. So and also they have quite short chapters, so it makes it a lot easier for me. So in this book, Amy wants to get away from her twin sister, so she flees to this village called Molenveld. It's a small village, and she meets 2 people there, 2 women, and things happen. So you read the story from the 3 women's perspective, and yeah, there is some crime stuff going on. The synopsis actually tells you, the synopsis on the back tells you a little bit more, but that bit doesn't happen till a little bit later on in the book, so I just want to keep it at that. I really enjoyed this one. I have heard from other people well, from one other person who found it a bit like slow paced, because it's like the tension of the thriller doesn't happen until a bit later on in the book. But yeah, so this is also kind of part fiction, if that makes sense. Literary fiction, I guess. But anyway, I really liked it, so you know, I wanted the comfort read and I got it, so you know, I'm happy. The next book is Fablehaven, book 3, Grip of the Shadow Plague, and I buddy read this together with Linda from Linda's Older Books. This series is by Brandon Mull, and they are up there, but then you can't see me anymore. So they're all the way up there. So yeah, I decided this will have to do because you can't really see me anymore there. And these, so yeah, Fablehaven book 3. This series is, I would say, middle grade fantasy, and it's about Seth and Kendra, and their grandparents are the caretakers of Fablehaven, which is kind of a place where magical creatures can live. Well, this is book 3, so I can't tell you much about the synopsis of this one specifically. I enjoyed this one, but I did have some questions still by the end of it, which I hope are going to be answered in books 4 and or 5. And there was one thing that I liked less about this book. This is not actually that I didn't actually mention this to Linda when we buddy read it, but so I'm going to tell you a little bit about the premise of this book, otherwise I can't explain it. So the book is called Grip of the Shadow Plague. So in this book there is kind of this plague in which the magical creatures become evil and like darker, and this kind of goes into the fact that like when people say that they see things in black and white rather than grey tones, you know, like, and I don't know if this is just me or whether other people think about that, but I feel like that indirectly might be related to like racism and how people with darker skin tone are sometimes, well, not sometimes, white people are being racist against them, often. So, and in this book, these creatures that are turned, so to speak, well, that was just the one part that didn't quite sit well with me. But again, I don't know if that's just me. Yeah, I couldn't help but thinking of that. But I don't have like a simple solution for that or something, because like, I mean, you could have said the characters are turning blue or something instead of like dark, but yeah, like I don't know. So, but anyway, so I did like this book, but not as much as the first 2 books. Also because we still have some unanswered questions that I was hoping to get answered on, but we didn't. So I still liked it, but yeah, I look forward to finding out what happens in books 4 and 5, which we're going to read in November and December, hopefully. The next book I read is The Art of Feeling by Laura Timms. This book does not belong in the fantasy, science fiction, horror section, but I thought you haven't really seen a lot of this section yet, so what the hey. This is a young adult contemporary. So this book is about Sam. She has been in an accident, and since then she has been in pain. She injured her leg, she walks on crutches, and she has chronic pain. Not only that, but her mother died in that accident. So we're now 6 months on from that, and she meets this boy called Elliot, who has a condition which means he feels no pain. There is a scientific name for it, like a medical name for it, but I don't remember, but it is in the book. And so Elliot can't feel pain. Like at first Sam thinks, oh, you know, that you're lucky because, you know, I have this chronic pain all the time, and but, you know, not being able to feel any pain whatsoever can also be dangerous, because Elliot doesn't notice if he gets, for example, too hot, or if he gets hypothermia, or if he injures himself and he doesn't. Yeah, I bought this book based on Paper Fury's recommendation, or C.G. Drew's Kate, and she said she felt that Elliot is autistic, and so that's kind of the reason what made me pick up the book, her review. But anyway, and yeah, I would agree with that. He definitely has traits from it, let's put it that way. And so because he's kind of like socially, and yeah, so, but the word is not mentioned. It's actually said that a lot of doctors just didn't know. I love this. It was also a quick read for me, and so you're reading the whole book from Sam's perspective, and yeah, I really I loved it, yeah. And then I read Reasons to Stay Alive by Matt Haig. I have read some of the author's other books. So I've previously read The Humans by this author. That was years ago. I absolutely love this. It's not everyone's kind of humor, but it was mine. And I have also read A Boy Called Christmas. This was a buddy read with Linda from Linda's World of Books, and we both really liked this. I have a few others of his on my shelf. But yeah, anyway, I don't know. I was just in the mood for this. This is like basically his memoir. And I liked that it was quite sort of short. And actually, I avoided this book for quite a long time. I mean, buying it. Because of a specific opinion of the author that my friend told me he had. Anyway, but I follow the author on Instagram, and so I've been seeing his tweets, and I was like, well, it does sound quite good. So I bought this book. I also bought his newest book, The Midnight Library. I haven't read that yet, but yeah, I like this. Now, this was written a few years ago, originally I think in 2015. So nothing about the pandemic in here, although on his Instagram account and his Twitter and stuff, he does talk about that. Yeah, I like this. So it is his own story. So he has or had depression and anxiety. He probably still has. And I have those too. I'm not like in a depression as much at the moment. I have been twice before in my life. I like this, and so that opinion that I was referring to, part of that was true, part of it was not, but you know, it has to do with medication and how medication did not help the author. But he does state in the book that if it works for other people, you know, that's fine with him. It's not for him. That's fair enough. I do use medication and I need it. I have used medication since I was about 17. Different ones, not always the same ones, but yeah. And that has helped me a lot. I think without it, I probably wouldn't be here anymore. So, but yeah, I like this. Alright, so originally I was going to see if I could split this, how long this video was going to be, but because I've taken lots of little clips, which was honestly just a spur of the moment idea. Is that the right expression? So I really don't know how long this video got now. And I'm not going to talk about the last book. And I have a lot of things to say about this. I made notes. So, this book is called Autism in Lockdown. Expert Tips and Insights on Coping with the COVID-19 Pandemic by a whole bunch of authors. I don't know if you can see that. The light is also kind of fading outside. Dr. Temple Grandin, Carol Stock Krenowitz, Dr. Tony Edward, Carol Gray, and 30 other experts. Here is the back. Now, if you remember, if you are watching my videos already in, let's say, the first half of this year, I ordered this book because I was struggling with the pandemic and the lockdown. It took a while before I could get hold of it because it is an American release and it takes then a while before I can get it here in the Netherlands. Anyway, I was really, really excited about this book because I needed the help. And I can't remember now exactly what month I tried to read it, but I read the first few essays, bits, and then DNF'd it. And the reason for that is, and I could not, see, I bought this online, and the places where I looked for it and where I ordered it from didn't give me. Basically, most of the pieces in this book are written for parents who have autistic children. And they're targeted towards parents of autistic children who are usually neurotypical. So I did not know that when I bought this book. If I had known that, I wouldn't have bought it. Now, it does say that a little bit on the back, but not like clearly, but it does say a little bit, but obviously I couldn't see the back because I was ordering it online. Anyway, I wish it had been clearer somewhere, because it is not like literally anywhere, and well, me being autistic, I need to be told these things literally. It would have already helped to, for example, see like the table of contents, but yeah, you can't normally, at least I couldn't see that. So anyway, so I will talk about this book now, because it was the last 2 days of October, and I thought I'm gonna give this another go. We are now in the world kind of experiencing like the second wave, at least here in the Netherlands. So things were quite bad when it began in, you know, February, March, April, May, and then there were less cases over the summer, and since maybe, I'm not sure, August, September, October, or it's getting worse again here, and but also in other countries in Europe, the United Kingdom as well, and I know in America it's still being pretty terrible, and in many other places as well, not everywhere, but I think New Zealand's doing well. But yeah, anyway, so I thought I'm gonna give this book another go, keeping in mind that most of it is targeted towards parents with autistic children. So I am now going to give you all these notes that I wrote down. See, that makes it's much easier to talk about a book you didn't like sometimes. Not fictional, but maybe like a book like this. Yeah. So yeah, I got a lot of notes about this, so I'm gonna tell you that now. It's not all bad, just some pieces were, I thought some pieces were nice and good and useful. So that's definitely excellent, but there were also some pieces that I had some problems with, and so I'm gonna tell you about that now. So the first thing I want to mention is that in one of the early pieces, there is a link to, and it is about like visual scheduling and samples of schedules, and it is a link to Autism Speaks. Now, if you don't know Autism Speaks, there are lots of resources about that you can find. For example, I follow on Instagram a number of autistic people who have made posts about why Autism Speaks is so terrible. So if you don't know that, feel free to ask me, and I'll try to look up who's talked about this, and then I can tell you that, because I'm not the best person to talk about that. I absolutely stand behind what those people are saying. I don't like Autism Speaks. They also developed ABA, I believe, and that's going to be another point further down the line, further in this book. But just that was not a good beginning. And they are basically like an organization who want autistic children to behave more neurotypical. Okay, so the next point, further on, in another piece, it mentions the phrase quiet hands, and that is a phrase that is coming from ABA, or I think, is it applied behavioral something? Anyway, by which is meant that the autistic child should not be flapping their hands. Now, I disagree with this on multiple reasons, okay? So flapping hands is something that a lot of autistic people do, not all of us, but some of us at least, and it is called stimming, or, you know, self-stimulation, and it helps the autistic person regulate their emotions and senses and deal with the input around them. Okay, so this is sort of a survival mechanism to help us cope. And so quiet hands, now it's different, of course, if it's in a school or not, but like, we're in lockdown, okay? This book is about autism in lockdown. If the kid is in their own room, what does it matter if they're flapping their hands? If it's helping them, it's not hurting anyone, like, just let them do it. Like, that's my opinion. I mean, I can imagine if they're doing something like harmful, or if you're in a class maybe and it is really disturbing other autistic students, then it's a different story. But like in their own room, or like let's say in the living room or wherever, right? Just, it helps them. So why not just let them do it? Like, because neurotypicals see it as weird. I mean, I know that. I struggle with it myself. So I also have some stims that I can do that don't stand out as much, or right, and then the ones that stand out a bit more I tend to do more when I'm, you know, in my own house on my own sort of thing. So but I do like, there's for example this piece which is about the mother and then her autistic daughter and the non-autistic daughter, and it's kind of like done interview style. I really did like that one. But let me now find the bit that I had a problem with. Well, not that I had a problem with, but there was kind of an error in there. Now I know that the authors, the publishers have said that they wanted to get this book out soon, of course, to help people, so that it's not as heavily edited as they would otherwise have done, which, sure, that's fair enough. It's about this line here that says, could the shouldn't be sick? Remember the comorbid conditions in chapter 5. This book has 6 parts. They're called parts, not chapters. Now, in several pieces, some authors have said like that they're referring to books that they have written. But clearly, now this author didn't, I feel like they didn't specifically, I mean they did mention their book, but they didn't say that that's where they got the information from. But this was obviously blatantly copied, because this is in, I think, part 3. So we're not even in part 5 yet, and it's part 5 and not chapter 5. So that was like, I feel like that's such a simple error that you could have caught, but you know. So the child, the autistic child, who is actually called the child with autism, but that's going to be my next point. The child in this book is usually referred to as he, him, using he, him pronouns. But there was one place where they gave an example, and in that example the pronouns were she, her, and this was an example of a kid doing something wrong. So like, the one moment that you use she, her pronouns is when the kid does something wrong. And that just seems weird to me. I think in these times, 2020, we should use they, them pronouns. And some authors have. A lot of them haven't though. And certainly not when it comes to children. But I think that would just be better, rather than assuming everything to be heteronormative he, him. But one of the authors used the word tribe. And this author is not a Native American indigenous person. This author is white, and so the word tribe belongs to, you know, the Native Americans, indigenous people, First Nations, and it should not be used by white people in the meaning of, you know, what it means. So like you're, you know, because that's what white people mean with it, but that's not what that means for the cultures that use where the word came from. But now comes a big thing, okay? Almost always in this book, the autistic child is referred to as the child with autism, or a child with autism. And this is the difference between person first language versus identity first language. Now, if I remember, I'm going to link down below an article. So I googled it to try and find something for you to read more easily than maybe me rambling about it. So person first language is what is used, for example, when a person has cancer. Okay, so then you say the person with cancer, or a person has cancer. Identity first language is used, for example, with something that is really part of your identity, such as race, sexuality. Well, this article explains it better, okay? Now, not everyone knows this yet, but many studies have been done on the English-speaking autistic community. So, people, autistic people themselves. I refer to these people on Instagram that I follow. They have talked about this. Anyway, and that most autistic people prefer identity first language. So say, I am autistic, and not I am a person with autism, or I have autism. Now, interestingly, in the Netherlands, it is still very much a person has autism by many of the neurotypical carers. But not carers, but like the people who help, like the doctors and stuff. And when I was a teenager, I was told by neurotypical people that I should say that I have autism and not that I am autistic. Because the word autistic or autist has been used as a derogatory word. And so neurotypicals told me that I could not use that. And with me, it's many people. But, you know, it's about us. And so if I choose to say that I am autistic rather than that I have autism or that I am a person with autism, then that's my choice. And I respect everybody else's choice. If you're autistic and you want to say you have autism, you know, you do. The thing is, and the article that I talked about explains this very well. The thing is that with person first language, the idea originally is that you want to emphasize that the person is still like a person. But the thing is, without autism, I would not be me. So I consider it part of my identity, you know, my neurology. Identity first language shows that I am a person and it, you know, my identity doesn't matter in the sense that I am still a person. I mean, I'm not explaining this well, okay? Read the article that I link to if I remember to do it and if you are interested. Now, absolutely let a person, an autistic person, choose for themselves, okay? So yeah, in this book, it is almost always child with autism. Another thing, children grow up. Children with autism, autistic children, also grow up. And yet, so many books are about the parents and their child or teenager. There were some good pieces in here. I mentioned earlier the piece that was the interview between in a family. I really liked that one. There was also one to do with sensory challenges. I really liked that one as well. But a lot of the other ones were just not quite for me. I mean, I was not the target audience. I am not a parent. Let me emphasize that, okay? I am not a parent. I don't have kids. I don't want kids. I don't want to have kids. I don't know much about parenting, okay? I'm autistic and I know a bit about how I've been parented. Obviously, because I experienced it. And I should also point out that, and I hope this doesn't come across as bragging, okay? Because that's not what I'm trying to do here. I have an above average intelligence. I think it was, that helped me understanding the world and learning. And when my parents, for example, told me I couldn't do something because it was dangerous, for example, let's say you don't want to put your hand on the stove, or my parents knew that I had an above average intelligence, and so they didn't just say no with the stove, they explained to me why it was dangerous. Because the stove was hot and you could burn yourself, for example. Now, I don't remember this, okay, but my mum has told me this several times. And I had a friend from school, and she had, she was less intelligent than me, let's just put it that way, okay? And my mum tried to explain to this girl, my friend, also something she wasn't allowed to do when she was staying over at my house or thing, right? We were playing. And she said that the girl, she just wouldn't understand it. So my mum resorted to just saying no without explaining it because the girl didn't understand. But she told me this several times. Anyway, and the point I just want to make is that I can imagine that for children who have an maybe lower than average intelligence, they need maybe the more structured approach that this book is offering. I don't know. I mean, like I said, I'm no parent, so I don't have experience. The only experience I have is from me being a child and from my siblings. I have a younger sister and a younger brother. My brother is 7 years younger than me, so when I was a teenager, I would babysit him sometimes for him. How do you say that? Anyway. So that's all the experience I have. And my family, so my parents and my siblings and I, we all have above average intelligence. And that's something I do need to work on, like, because as a kid and teenager, I sometimes found it difficult to talk with people who were not that intelligent, let's put it that way, because it felt like we were kind of on a different wavelength. That's probably also because of, like, so when I started talking, okay, I was 3, I hadn't spoken a word, well, maybe hour or something, but nothing, you know. So I didn't speak for the first 3 years of my life, and then all of a sudden I was playing on a slide, I think with my mum and my grandma. They've told me the story several times, and so they wanted to leave at some point. And then I didn't want to leave. I wanted to stay on the slide, using the slide. So obviously, then I suddenly started speaking, and I was saying the same things that they had been saying to me whenever I climbed up the stairs of the slide. And that's when I started speaking, and I just spoke in full sentences after that. Is what I've been told. I don't remember it because I was 3. But I kind of think that maybe I just didn't want to speak until I was sure I could do it properly or something. But yeah, this was kind of a thing, and I only have an example that works in Dutch. So when I grew up, I was taught Dutch and not any other languages until I got to school. In Dutch, we have 2 words for an ambulance. This doesn't work in English because, as far as I know, you only have the word ambulance. In Dutch, you have the word ambulance, which is the word that most Dutch adults use. Fun fact, it actually comes from the Latin word ambulare, which means to walk. And most Dutch children, because ambulance is a bit of a difficult word, so most Dutch children say instead ziekenwagen, which means, yeah, something like an illness car, a car truck for sick people, for ill people, something like that, okay? Like a patient wagon. I can't quite translate it, okay? So if you're not Dutch, I can imagine you're probably confused now. If you don't know Dutch, I mean, you don't have to be Dutch, you just gotta know Dutch. And so when I tried to talk at school with the other children, my mum told me this, they were so confused, and I was so confused, because they didn't understand the word ambulance, and I didn't understand the word ziekenwagen. So, yeah. What's my point with all this? Because we're getting a bit off track, and yeah, sorry about that. I might have to cut some stuff out here. Is that depending on the child's individual strengths and weaknesses and talents and skills, but also their intelligence and their ability to think about things and communicate, whether it be verbal or non-verbal. So obviously each child has to, have their own treatment and, their own schedule and all that. So again, I don't know anything about parenting. So I'm not giving parental advice here. I'm just telling you how I felt reading this book, okay? If you're a parent and you have a kid with autism, an autistic kid, as I would say it, and you think you might like this book, feel free to talk to me about it if you want to. But yeah, so in this channel, I'm discussing my own experience with books and not the intended target audience of a book, because whether or not I'm that, I'm just telling you my experience. Okay, I'm not here to advise people. I'm just here to talk about the books I like and didn't like in this case. Okay. So yeah, I guess the kid on the cover, the white kid on the cover, should have been a giveaway. But yeah, so one other thing One Piece also said is that all autistic people, all children with autism, as actually said, are visual thinkers. Learners is what I meant. Visual learners, sorry. In my mind, such a generalization is not, we should not do that. Because, you can learn visually, you can learn audibly, and there's a third way, and I can't remember the term right now, but there is one. I think it means like learning by doing or something, or learning watching someone do something. But either way, okay, not everyone is the same, okay? As the saying goes, if you know one person with autism, you know one person with autism. We're all different. Autistic people between ourselves are just as different as neurotypicals are between themselves, if that makes sense. So you can't say that. What you can say is that out of the people I've met, let's say, out of all the kids that this therapist saw or whatever, those were all visual learners. Okay, that's possible, sure. Give it a go. I mean, sure. I'm just saying, you know, don't generalize, right? Like, I very much don't do that. I try not to, and I know a lot of people do that, but yeah, such sayings just strike me in the wrong way. Like, all people who fit into this box do this or are this, and like, we're all individual people, and you can't, yeah. Okay, I think we're getting way off track, okay? I was disappointed in this book. I think we've made that blatantly clear. Because it was just not what I needed. And because I need to close off this wrap up, we're here again with fantasy and science fiction. Plenty more bookcases I haven't shown you yet, but I need to clean up some messes first before I can do that. There's lots of piles of books on the floor here. You can't see them, but so all in good time. And before I knew it, it's getting dark. It's the end of the afternoon, and this took way longer than I thought it would, because I decided to move it around, and I accidentally rambled for like an hour about stuff. So I don't know if it was an hour. That was an estimate. So yeah, thank you so much for watching this video. If you've made it here, then, you know, I really appreciate you. I mean, I appreciate you either way, but I really appreciate that you made it this far. If you like, please let me know what you thought of me using this light, and was only in this corner actually of the room, because I didn't want to move it around too much because it's a bit big and fragile. And also because I have the piles of books on the floor that I have to navigate around. But that will be sorted. And let me know what you thought of, you know, me reviewing the books in different locations, or whether that was a bit too chaotic for you, because most of them are really small clips. Which, to be honest, I thought most of them were going to be longer, but it turned out I didn't have a whole lot to say about some of these illustrated children's books that I read. I thought it was going to be a short wrap up, only the last book really made it really long. I am quite tired by now, and it is dark. You can't see it because of this light, but it is dark outside. Can we see that? Oh. Well, there's the light. You can't really see it because the light is like super bright, and then outside there it is dark. And this is not really a good angle with the light, but I see potential in this space once I've cleaned up all of this stuff on the floor to be something that I can experiment with the angles, even if it takes so long to build up and build down the tripod again. For example, here's this box with stuffed animals. Well, this is a Pokemon, but that didn't fit on my shelves, like for example some of these smaller ones. Oh, let's not fall over. So yeah, I don't know where I'm gonna put them, because the bigger ones are on the windowsills at the moment, but that's also already filled up. Here's a bunch of stuff on the floor that I really need to sort out. See, and there's some of them on the windowsill, and more and more. So do you think I like stuffed animals, as I call them, knuffles? I do. Oh yeah, funsies, more stuff to sort out. This is, now you can see how like dark it is getting. Anyway, thank you so much for watching this video, and I hope to see you in my next one. Bye!